If you're an average Bloxburg player, you have definitely struggled for build ideas before. We all have at least once had the urge to build, so logged into the game, stared at the empty plot, and then left the game defeated because that lightbulb moment of inspiration never came. Until now, because today I'm gonna give you 100 different build ideas in Bloxburg. Hey glossettes, welcome back. How are you guys doing today? Today, I'm gonna be your Bloxburg fairy godmother because I'm gonna be giving you endless build ideas to ensure you never run out of them again, unless you build all these somehow. In this video, I'm also gonna be splitting it into a few different categories of what the builds actually are, and these will also be timestamped below so you can easily search through for any kind of type of build you want that you may be particularly looking for inspo on. The categories are house styles, which will be different styles of houses, of course, store buildings, which are little shops or food places or businesses you could make, big buildings, which are things like maybe hotels, malls, racetracks, and much more. So stuff that would probably take up an entire plot. We also have landscapes, so different landscapes you could create and then maybe add builds onto. Then we have vehicles, which is of course different vehicles you could build. And finally, miscellaneous, which is basically just random build ideas. But without further ado, let's get straight into this video, starting with our first section, houses. So first we have a cute cottage. This works perfectly for every season. It has lots of design potential. Then we have a tree house, which is more of a unique one, a Tuscan style house, which is very popular on TikTok right now, an industrial style house. You see this a lot in kind of apartments, and speaking of apartments, you could make an apartment or an apartment building. We have modern houses, which used to be a very popular building style, suburban houses, very basic, very American, French chateaus, which I adore this style. It's very fancy, just in time for summer or for summer ending. You could also make a beach house, which looks cute, especially on the new beach plots, a log cabin, super cute, super cozy, more of a weird one, but you could make a house in the shape of objects. This is something I've done for a few videos now. We also have houses for build challenges, such as the 1x1x1 house. They're pretty fun. You could make a farmhouse, bonus points if you add some really cool landscaping. You could also go for more of a villa style. There's lots of different types of these, but I do love the more kind of Greek looking ones. Victorian houses are super fun to make, especially if you're more of a detailed builder, and they also work pretty well for haunted houses as we get closer to Halloween. You could make a posh chalet, perfect for winter too, even though it's not winter right now. Another fun challenge is you could make a house in the style of an old aesthetic, maybe like a 2020 blush home, or back in 2018 the very Tumblr black and white houses. Townhouses are also fun, very British as well. You could make a bungalow, especially if you don't have the multiple floors game pass. These can be really cute. And finally, you could recreate a house from a movie or a TV show. If you're someone who likes building with references, these are super fun to do too. And that is all of the house style ideas. I'm sure there's many more I didn't include, so we are going to move on to the next one, which is store buildings. So you could make a makeup store, especially as we have quite a few makeup products in the game. A candy store would be really cool. Once again, we have quite a lot of candy in the game too. A jewelry store is very chic and would be perfect to kind of show off the rings from the Valentine's update this year. A hair salon is very fun. I actually just recently built one on my channel. A grocery store is also super cool to make. There is a lot of detail needed for the shelves though. One build that I really want to add to my Los Angeles city is an antique store. So there's a lot of items in the game that would be perfect for this because they're just so random. A stationery store is also a really fun idea that I've done before. You could make an IKEA using all of the many furniture sets we have. You could make a bank with like a vault and everything. These are really good for detailed exteriors. You could make a cinema, like a movie theater type thing, especially with the huge projector screen that we have in the game. You could build like an estate agent's office and even put pictures of your other house builds in it for people to kind of roleplay buying. A bakery is a very classic Bloxburg inspo I see everywhere, but they're also really fun to add into towns. You could recreate a fast food place, or you could even make your own and come up with your own kind of brand name for it. Diners are also really fun. I've made a few of those. You could also build a fancy restaurant, or maybe even a pizzeria with a cool pizza oven. A coffee shop is another basic one, but very fun to do, especially if you theme it around something. A photography studio would be adorable. I'm actually doing that in a couple weeks time. You could make a donut shop or any type of dessert place really. This one was recently added into Bloxburg itself, but you could make your own laundromat. You could also build an arcade with some custom mini games. You could make a pet shop for the non-existent pets in the game. You could build a beach shop with souvenirs and things. One idea I really love is a post office. I really want to make one of these. You could also make a toy store. We have so many toys in the game, and toy stores can be really creative with the design. Clothing stores are also a good idea, although clothing is kind of more complicated to make if you want custom items. A music or record store is also very fun. I made one a few years ago, and then I actually added my own album covers. You could make a pretzel store. You could make a gym. Another one recently added to Bloxburg is a flower shop, which is a really cute idea. You could make a smoothie store. I've made a couple of those as well. Ice cream parlors too are also really fun to design. You could make a steakhouse, and finally you could make a bookstore. Very cozy, very autumn vibes. But that's all of the smaller store buildings, so let's move on to the big buildings, which are slightly more large and complicated. First up, we have a school. These are pretty fun to build, especially with all the different types of classes you can add. Also super fun for role plays. You could do a summer camp. I feel like everyone agrees with me when you say we always see TikToks of like American summer camps, so maybe you could make one and pretend you're there. You could make a mall, which is actually a great place to make all of the little stores we went over in the previous category to kind of add them into there. Racetracks are really fun to do and fun to use with your friends. You could make a hospital, good for dramatic role plays. You could make a courthouse, which is also good for dramatic role plays. You can make a farm and even build all of the animals for more of a challenge. Bowling alleys would be cute, although kind of impossible to make functional. Bingo halls could also kind of be cool, like Bloxy Bingo. An aquarium would be really cool. Once again, you could try build all of like these sea creatures in there. A museum is also a fun idea, especially as a place to kind of keep all your Bloxburg trophies and things. You could build a stadium, whether it's like a sports stadium or a concert venue or something like that. A theme park would be incredible, but very hard to do. However, I have seen people making working roller coasters with vehicles before. You could build a church or a cathedral. These are great for more detailed builders and very cool to make. They're really pretty and have a lot of beautiful kind of detailed architecture. For more of a fun one, you could make escape rooms and maybe trap your friends in them and try and let them see if they can find their way out. You could also build a circus or a carnival type thing. A castle or a palace is also a very fun idea, especially as there's so many different aesthetics you could use for this one. You could make an office building, maybe a train station or a subway station. You could even build an airport, which is also one with a lot of different aesthetics. I see so many different styles of airport. You could build a theater and put on shows if you like to roleplay. You could make a fire station. We also have a holiday resort and a daycare. You could also make a police station, and finally you could make a hotel, which has so many possibilities for different themes and things like that. So that's everything for our big building section, and let's move on to vehicles. This is more of a difficult build category. So first we have a boat or a yacht. You could make so many different kind of boat designs. These are also great for role playing on. We also have planes, which are so difficult to do, but I do see a lot of people building planes in airports and things. We then have a tour bus. I actually built a tour bus a few years ago. We also have a car. You could make kind of like any type of car. Then we have a hot air balloon. These are really cool. We also have a submarine. I feel like a submarine build would be really fun. We also have a pirate ship, which I actually did in my last video. Then we also have a rocket ship. I've never actually seen anyone make a rocket ship before, I don't think. We also have a train, and then finally we have a food truck. I see a lot of people making food trucks, and they're also good to kind of role play out of. But those are a few vehicles you could make, and that takes us into our next section, which is landscapes. So landscapes you could make are islands. I actually made an island recently too, a volcano, a big mountain. A mountain has so much potential. You could make a jungle. You could make kind of like a park with maybe a lake and things like that. You could make just a countryside build with fields. You could make kind of like a desert, maybe with some pyramids or something. You could make an under the sea scene. This would be perfect to kind of put your submarine in, and also has a lot of potential for detail. You could also make a forest, and there's tons of different types of forests all over the world that you could take inspiration from. And finally, you could make a beach or a beach area. But those are just a few ideas of actual kind of landscapes you could add to your plots. But finally, we have our last section, which is miscellaneous. So this is just basically a bunch of random build ideas that you could do. So starting off, we have a building from a TV show or a movie. Once again, kind of similar to the house section, I find it really fun to actually use references, and I see loads of people who kind of recreate things from shows and movies and stuff, and it's so cool. We also have giant characters. You could make kind of giant cartoon characters, or maybe a build of your giant avatar. I've done that before. You could also recreate furniture, so this doesn't have to be giant. You could just make different kind of custom furniture. You could add on to Bloxburg furniture. I sometimes like to find like IKEA furniture and try and recreate it. I feel like it's kind of fun, and definitely fun to kind of get some practice for decorating your house. You could make a giant board game. I've actually done this before. It's really fun. I made a Monopoly in Bloxburg and we all played it. You could make real life landmarks or cities. I see people build like the Eiffel Tower a lot. You could also make a giant item. You could build anything you want, just like a giant scale. You could also revamp a town building. So you could take a building inside of Bloxburg, for example Pizza Planet, and you could actually make it yourself and make it kind of how you would like to see it in a revamp. You could also build your own room. You could build your real life room inside of the game, which is another thing that I really like to do. You could also build a trap. You could make some sort of complicated trap to trap other players in. I feel like everyone does the carpet basement trick. You could also have a build battle. You could do a battle with other people. You could build a Pinterest Pinterest image, you could find any Pinterest image you want and just recreate it in the game. You could make a bunker to hide in, and finally, you could make a YouTuber inspired bedroom. I actually did this with Flamingo recently, so I just take a YouTuber and kind of look at things that I kind of link to them, and then I turn it into a bedroom theme, which I actually think is kind of fun. And you could even do that with anything. You could just take a random object and do a bedroom inspired by it. But that is 113 different build ideas in Bloxburg. Now I do actually have a lot more. I feel like I could definitely make a part 2 to this video, so if you do find this helpful and you'd like to see more ideas, then do let me know. And also let me know if you guys would like to see kind of like a roleplay version of this, or maybe just even 100 things to do in Bloxburg, because I feel like that would be a lot of fun. But that was all of my ideas, and if you guys do actually make any of these ideas, I would love to see them. So you can tag me in on it in any social medias at GlossieYT, or you can join my Discord server and you could send it there in the build channels. I would love to see them. I am gonna go and actually film another build of mine, the next Los Angeles video, but I will see you all later. I love you all so much, glossettes. XOXO, Glossy Girl.